puffy sleeves are in the stores again. They're nice, they're mild little puff sleeves, like there was in this pattern from 1983, before the big massive puff sleeves came in. I'll show you how to easily make them, coming up. Hey, Chanel here, bringing you weekly videos to help you get better and better with your fashion sewing and be more creative too. So be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll never miss another video. So I found this old vintage pattern in my pattern boxes. It's actually been there, must have been, this is 1983. I think I've had this ever since then. I thought I cleaned them all out for a while there. I don't know where it came from. But I was looking for a puffy sleeve, a puff sleeve, to show you how to make one, and I came across this pattern. Also, it has just normal sleeves and then sleeveless. It's I think in the early 80s, it was before it got really ridiculous, the sleeves, because I was in that era and made a lot of puffy sleeves, like really puffed caps with netting that would make them stand up, and it's got a little ridiculous. It was like, how much bigger is this going to go? I actually had a lady, probably back in the late 80s, early like 1990, pay me to come help her get dressed before an event, and I had to like literally, I think it was a dress I made, or I can't remember, altered, and I had to like really like help her get this whole sleeve on, and we probably like double stick taped it to her shoulders and stuff. So she was, I can't believe how ridiculous we were back then. I did puff sleeves and I had big hair, but I don't think I did it really crazy puffy. I can't remember, but at least I hope there's no photos of me out there on that. Anyway, so I thought I would show you how to easily sew a puff sleeve. It's pretty simple. It's almost easier than a set-in sleeve because you don't have to worry about it being having puckers in it, because it actually has gathers in it, not puckers. But so let me show you how to easily make this. All right, here is your basic puff sleeve. In the real puffy ones, you would see the cap get bigger and bigger over here. It would probably get wider and then taller. And then a regular sleeve, you actually would have it a little bit narrower right here, so that you didn't, this is where the puff comes from. You also have notches that are really important in a sleeve. You have the single notch means front. It's going to go to the front. The double notches is in the back. And there's actually a difference between these. Actually, it's not on this one so much. A lot of times on a regular set-in sleeve, you'll see the back is a little bit, how do you say, flatter at this part here. And it'll come out a little bit more here. And then the front will scoop down a little bit more, because that's how you wear them. I mean, your back takes up a little bit more width. Then you have this shoulder dart here, which is really important. And I actually like to put a notch there instead of the circle, because when you're getting this all puffed up, you want to see where that is, the center of it, where it's supposed to fit on the shoulder. A lot of times this shoulder dot is in the center, but a little bit towards the front. Then you have these little tiny circles here, and those are basically right here. They're showing you where to gather. It says gather along these lines. And this pattern's from the 80s, has more directions on it than the patterns out there nowadays. This time, what I'll do is put a little tiny clip right here, so that when I go to the sewing machine to put in my gathering stitches, I just kind of go in between those two layers right there. You can also, if you don't see them very well, you can put a little chalk mark right there. And I'm just going to sew two gathering lines here. I'm probably going to go actually a little bit past them too, to kind of give a little more control. So I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and get those basting stitches in there, the gathering stitches. All right, the first thing to do is to make your length stitch as long as it will go. And you're going to just be sewing there's my little mark there. I'm glad I put a chalk mark on it. I'm just going to do a 1/4 inch seam allowance from the edge. So I'm just going to watch the presser foot follow along the raw edge here, and no back stitch. I'm just going to hit the gas here and go around. Pull cap of the sleeve, just a little past. That, your first stitch there. Okay, then I'm going to do another stitch, so it's pretty loose, so it's kind of puckering there because it's a really loose stitch. I'm going to do another stitch right close to it, within the 5/8 seam allowance, because the 5/8 will then be sewn where the sleeve seam is. So another seam there. Just let that go there. Got it. All right, now I have 2 gathering stitches here. Then while I'm at it, I'm going to sew the under seam here, 5/8. There, I'm going to put it back to a normal stitch. Reverse stitch it, and sew 5/8 down the under seam. Okay. All right. Now the sleeve is ready to put into the armhole. All right, at the underarm seam, you're going to press that seam open right there. And then I have my sleeve, and I'm going to work with it right sides out. And then my bobbin thread was a blue here, so I'm going to trim that off. The bobbin thread always tends to be a little bit looser of a stitch, so it's easiest if you pull the bobbin thread to get your gather. So I'm just going to go a little bit up here. So now I don't know how much gather is in this sleeve, and there was that little notch there where that circle was, and then right here is the notch where the shoulder seam is, so I'll put a pin right there. That a little closely trimmed, and then I make a nice, actually I have it out this way, make it look nice and evenly distributed right here. So you don't want to like flat and clumpy, you want to actually have a nice even gather. So you just got to work that way. Then we have the sleeve all ready to go in. In your bodice, you have I just have this fabric here with my, let's see, which one's the shoulder seam? Shoulder seam's the longest one. I have the front here. Also, I always know the front is where the single notch is, the back is where the double notch is. So now I'll turn that inside out, and I take these two. It's so easy to put these in wrong. You got to make sure it's right sides together. And I start at the side seam here. And I think I'll be sewing on the inside here, so I'm going to make sure my pin is right there. And then you have your double notches should looks a little tight right there. One of my seams probably wasn't good. Sometimes I always find these notches don't exactly line up right there, because it looks like my seams are right. Both of them are 5/8. Interesting. Also, you don't want to pull this seam, the sleeve seam, too far up, because you really want like the curve in here to work, because otherwise the sleeve would be uncomfortable there. So I'm going to really like get that curve in here, but make sure at the same time I don't have a pucker, and then just pin in there. So I get that a little bit started. Then I take the shoulder seam, that's where this notch is, and then I put a pin and I put it on the shoulder seam right there. That's why that circle that I've turned into a notch is so important, because it gives you your starting base. Then I'm going to put a couple more pins working my way up the side of the armhole there. And then this is where they wanted me to start gathering, so I have it flat. And then my gathers are fitting in there really well. So then I'll put some pins in here. I usually use a lot of pins here just to keep it down and steady. And then my other side here, this part's supposed to be flat. And then flat until, where's my little notch there? And then the gathers right here that are evenly distributed. I got some pins. Right now all I got to do is go in there and sew around it 5/8 of an inch. And I always like to start again at the underseam here, and I'll probably start just a little bit past it here and then go around it. Seems to be the easiest way, and I'll be sewing on the inside. Okay, I'm ready to sew it. Just going to make sure my seams are flat. Get started in here. And I'm going to be watching my 5/8 mark there. I could use this, but I have a lot of pins in the way. Right there. To take out that one pin. Okay. And then I'm going to make sure I'm on a regular stitch. Don't want to be on a basting stitch. And I don't have to even reverse it yet, because I'm going to sew right over that. And these pins can really get in the way. And right here I can feel like there's a little gather, so my fingers are kind of really working here to make sure this is smooth. And just think section by section, and you just keep turning it this way. And again, I have another little crease here, but I'm just feeling it right here. Here. Coming up to my gathers. Sometimes if it's real puffy, I'll sew right over the pins, but you couldn't use one of these seam guides. Right here, making sure, now I can't really feel it because it's pretty bumpy there. I'm going to make sure these are all evenly distributed. You don't want to have like little pleats. And right here, sometimes too, I'll take the pin and get my little gathers a little bit better in there. And this is a cotton fabric, which is easier to use. Some fabric can really be tricky. Velvets especially. I did a lot of velvets over the years with puffy sleeves, doing evening gowns back in the 90s. Oh boy. And then you can distribute the gathers really evenly with the pin. Okay, now I'm through my gathers, making sure my raw edges are together here. And now I'm back to feeling if I have any pleats going on here. Around. This right here, I'm going to kind of pivot it a little bit. Make sure, because this is a curve right here. Coming into this stitch, and I'll just sew over that. Do a quick reverse. And it's done. Check for puckers or little tucks that get sewn in there. Looks like they're all clear, so that's good. And there is the puff. Wow, that's a good puff. Holding up pretty good. Well, there you have it. Nice little puffy sleeve. That looks pretty good. It's a nice one. It's just right up at the shoulder area, not too far in here. Came out really good. You also always want to check for threads that escaped out of the gathering threads. That means that you didn't sew within that 5/8 that you went outside of the 5/8, and then the stitch goes into the sleeve. So actually what you can do now also is just, you can again take the bobbin threads, you can pull them all the way out. Just have to really just pull it all the way out. And here's the top thread there. So that whole stitch came out. Sometimes that'll really help get the bulk out of it. Now if I pull this one, I think I came real close right there. I stitched right on top of it, so it might not pull out, or it breaks. And but then I get from the other side and it comes out, and you can take all the stitches, all these threads out, and then and I know for sure it's not showing on the outside. So there you go. There's a little puff sleeve. Those are pretty simple. They hide some mistakes. Just want to make sure you don't get the fabric pleated in there. You get a lot better at it the more of these sleeves you do, obviously, but you might want to practice on some cotton fabric. That's actually the easiest fabric to work with, but when you go into all different kind of decorative fabrics, they can really give you a problem. Another real good tip is to use pinking shears on your sleeve, or I was going to say overlock it, but if you overlock it, don't cut anything off, because sometimes working with all this stuff, the more it really starts to fray and it drives you crazy. So there you go. Let me know if you have any questions about sleeves, how to put them in, any little extra things you need to know. Be sure to answer your questions. Just leave a comment below, and I'll see you in the next sew bit.